Hey biohackers, I'm Shaina Simhaee, a holistic nutritionist passionate about helping people overcome autoimmune diseases and fertility challenges through food and lifestyle and whole body approaches. We're here today at the Biohackers Conference in LA, where cutting-edge ideas meet real-world health solutions. Today, I'm thrilled to sit down with David Korsunsky, the founder of Heads Up Health, a platform that's changing how we harness data to optimize our well-being. To kick things off, David, could you tell us what Heads Up Health is all about and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Shannon. So Heads Up is a way to measure your health. And it's a way for you to track progress over time. And it's a way for you to use numbers to ensure that you are doing things correctly and that your health is improving. So a lot of what we're doing in biohacking is on the cutting edge. You can't go to your insurance doctor and ask for peptides and cryo chambers and all the crazy cutting edge stuff we do here.
Right.
So we need ways to make sure that we're doing things correctly, that our health is improving. So we wanted to make a system that was accessible to anybody. They could capture some data that could be from a blood test that you get from the doctor, could be from an Oura ring, could be from a watch, but you can capture data, try a biohack, remeasure, and see if it worked or not. So that's the system we wanted to create. I was doing a lot of my own biohacking. About 10 years ago is when I first started getting into it.
Cool.
I had 4 different doctor-patient portals.
Oh, wow.
Because I'd lived in Boston, San Francisco, Scottsdale. You know, you change insurance, you change jobs, you change doctors. It's like a sliver is in this doctor's portal and a sliver is in that doctor's portal. So that was the first challenge. It was a mess. Then I was doing things like DEXA scans and genetics and more of the biohacking type diagnostics. Urine, stool, saliva, microbiome, all those functional diagnostic tests, which I'm sure you're familiar with, working with like autoimmune and those types of things where you have to go into other body systems. So there was all that data. And then there was the data I was generating myself. So the system is designed to bring all of that together in a single user interface so you can ask a question from the data.
This is like the father of all the data goes into one spot to manage it for you.
Correct.
That's awesome. That's so fascinating, especially how it ties into empowering people with their own data.
Yep.
As someone who works with these clients with autoimmune and fertility issues, I see how transformative that could be.
Sure.
David, how does Heads Up Health go beyond just collecting the data to actually help people take charge of their health in practical, everyday ways?
I think the important distinction to understand is just where we're at in society as it pertains to healthcare today versus 10 years ago. 10 years ago, if you had a fertility issue or an autoimmune issue, or you just wanted to put on muscle, kick more ass, whatever it is that you want to do, we would go to the doctor, they would run some blood work, we'd go do something for 6 months or 12 months, and then we'd go rerun the blood work. There's a big gap in between those data points. Like even if you're running labs every 3 months, it's like, that's still a long time. Now we're in an era where you can make changes every single day. So what that means is we can close the feedback loop a lot tighter. And so simple examples would be, let's take the example of an autoimmune condition, for example. If I'm wearing a device every single day that helps me track my heart rate variability, it's one of the single most powerful indicators we can use of our body's resiliency. So I can engage in my health and get that feedback every single day and know that I'm moving in the right direction consistently. I can also get feedback every single day on what things are moving me in the wrong direction. So the individual now is empowered with more data than the doctor. They're getting samples every day. You know, your doctor is getting a sample every 6 months.
6 months, correct.
You now have samples every single day. The technology available to consumers is incredibly sophisticated. You know, these are clinical grade devices, in some cases FDA approved medical devices, like the CGM on my arm. So now as individuals, we, in my opinion, have more empowerment and more data even than the doctors. We still need the medical professionals, don't get me wrong. But to your question about how are we empowered as individuals, we can make changes every single day. We can constantly try micro experiments to see what works. And Basically, we can learn how to self-calibrate our health in real time every single day for the rest of our life.
This is so fascinating. So we now have more power to move our needle faster than what we would do in traditional health.
100 times better.
This is so fascinating. I love how this bridges the gap. Now let's zoom back out into like the holistic side of things, which is so close to my heart. From a holistic standpoint, David, what nutritional shifts do you see as game changers for well-being, and why do they matter, especially for conditions like the autoimmune and fertility, which we just spoke about just a little bit?
There's two things that come up for me when you ask that question about nutrition and what are we able to do now to really empower ourselves. The first is the invention of the continuous glucose monitor. Okay, I wear one on my arm right here. I don't have.
What was the name of the one that you wear?
I wear the Dexcom.
Okay.
The Stello, that's the new one. These CGMs, as of about 2 months ago, are now available over the counter, no prescription.
Awesome.
So prior to a couple of months ago, you had to get a doctor to write you a prescription for this incredible device. Now you can just get them online, no prescription required. So why is that important for nutrition, functional nutrition, integrative nutrition? We now have the ability to collect a blood sugar measurement in real time every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That data goes to your phone, and you can see exactly what's happening in real time with everything you eat.
Wow.
And you can start to see how individualized it is. So I often give this example of a study that was done out of Israel. And they put these sensors on 800 people. They gave them all the exact same meals every single day. So they removed all the variability about what was the person eating. And they looked at the blood sugar patterns of all of these people, and it was all individualized. One person ate a banana, the blood sugar went up. The other person ate a banana, the blood sugar went down. Should you eat the banana or not? That's a highly individualized question. So what this allows us to do, first of all, is make micro corrections on our blood sugar every single day in real time. That affects all the hormonal systems in the body. It affects the quality of our sleep. It affects how much fat we store versus how much we burn. So this is probably, the CGM is the first really, really incredible tool that we have to change the way we think about nutrition. The second, to your question more specifically around chronic condition, is the ability to see how food affects our heart rate and our heart rate variability in real time. And that can also help us indicate trigger foods. So we can also use some of the real-time data, even from a simple thing like an Apple Watch, to see how hard does our heart rate go after we eat a certain meal, or how low does our heart rate variability go down after a certain meal. And for complex autoimmune conditions, sometimes food sensitivity is something you ate 3 days ago.
Correct.
So when we can capture more information on these symptoms, we can start to identify these trigger foods in more of a real-time capacity using biometrics we can get off our body.
That's so amazing, and this resonates with what I've seen in my practice. I mean, we've learned for years that everyone's an individual, and one person's food and medicine is another person's poison. So
precisely,
it's exactly what we do in our practice.
Yeah.
David, how has tracking biomarkers through Heads Up revealed surprising ways to tailor diets to individual needs? Maybe something that could apply to someone struggling with inflammation or hormonal imbalances.
Again, I keep going back to the ability to regulate the glycemic response to food. I think that's the number one thing we can do to eliminate what I call micro injuries to our body. And
like micro-inflammation.
Micro-inflammations, when you see something that takes your blood sugar, let's say before you eat a food, you're at steady state. Your blood sugar is at 85, for example. And you eat something that takes you to 185. That is like a micro-injury on the body. You don't feel that.
Right.
But it happens.
It happens inside, yes.
And for some people, if they have not really got off of processed foods, that could be happening multiple times per day. It's like you look at the chart and it's bang, 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 bang. So the first and simplest and most effective and easiest thing you can do is just eliminate the day-to-day micro injuries. That will have downstream improvements on hormonal health, on our ability to self-regulate.
Detoxify.
Yeah, our ability to make better choices. We're going to sleep better. Our hormonal regulation will be better. Our appetite control. So everything gets better as we clean up blood sugar. That'd be the first and most important thing that I think everyone should focus on. You know, before the continuous glucose monitor, we had to do it old school.
Right.
We had to buy a glucometer. This is like a prehistoric thing nowadays. Did you ever have one of those? I've done thousands of measurements because that's all we had back in the day. So what you'd do is you'd take a measurement, you'd go eat whatever you want, right?
And you would do it like with the prick test.
Prick test, and then you do 30 minutes after you ate, 60 minutes, and 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And you'd look, okay, so what was my 30-minute postprandial? What was my 60-minute? What was my 120? And then by like hour 2, you should be back to where you were when you started. But we're all lugging around these kits and like poking our finger in the restaurant at a bathroom and setting a timer on our phone. But like, that's how we did it before. You know?
Right, I mean, you must have been very dedicated to be pricking yourself.
Oh man, yeah, and then you throw testing ketones in there, so now you're also doing the blood test for ketones. So like, I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of those experiments on myself. It's part of how I was building the software and learning from my own body and learning how to build the data visualizations in the software. So a lot of it was just my own testing. But I think again, I've mentioned this a couple times, but the CGM is probably the most profound tool, and starting with blood sugar regulation, and everything else downstream starts to fall in line from that.
I love that. That is really cool. I love this data-driven approach because it gives us as the consumer so much more power over our health.
Yeah.
So biohacking and holistic nutrition can sometimes seem like the opposite ends of the spectrum, whereas you have these like really cool high-tech gadget devices, and then at the other side of this, you have something that I like to do a lot is whole body intuition, and I really think that people have an understanding, and this is if you have to eliminate the processed food, that's first and foremost. Yep. But once you eliminate that, people do have a deep level intuition that you have to sometimes tap into.
Correct.
How do you see this tech complementing that for better health and even optimizing for fertility and calming autoimmune?
Well, intuition's a funny thing, and that's almost like a level of intelligence, almost, in my opinion, below the conscious ego. You know, we just feel it, and we instinctively know that something for us is good or bad. I would encourage everyone to listen very carefully to that voice, because sometimes that voice is actually right, even when everything in the external world is telling you the opposite. And that's something I see as a business owner sometimes as well, is that when I make decisions, there's the data, and then there's the instinct.
Right.
And so that is very nuanced. And you really have to trust yourself when you say, you know what, I know the data is telling me this, but I instinctively feel something different. And so I would encourage everyone to listen very carefully to those signals. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to engage with a talented practitioner like yourself, who can then help maybe cross-reference what the person is feeling versus what the data is showing, for example. So those are nuanced situations, but I think our instinct is something that we need to pay really, really close attention to, and there's times where you need to trust that very, very carefully.
I mean, that's great, because then you can go back, you trust your intuition, and then you go back and you can actually still track the data, and your intuition can tell you.
Sometimes they confirm each other.
They confirm
In
each
most
other.
cases, they should confirm each other. But there are rare instances where you're like, you know what? I know in my heart this is the right decision for me. I don't care what the external world says. But
eventually they'll catch up to each other, right?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Like, I've made business decisions where every person who I trust, who's got way more experience and has been doing this stuff way longer, has told me what to do. And who am I to doubt these? They've been doing it for 20 years longer. And there's times where I just trust my instinct. And I'd say like 99% of the time, that's the right decision.
Nice. I love that that's a great way to tie these things together. But I'm always curious about smooth sailing when you blend these two worlds. Have you ever encountered any pushback or challenges in blending a data-driven approach with holistic wellness, like skepticism from either side? And how do you address that?
Well, I think that healthcare and holistic, whether you're holistic or whether you're allopathic or like whatever your approach is, you still need to measure things and know that it's working. So I don't know that there's ever a scenario where the two are contradictory. I think they should be complementary. The data approach should work with a holistic approach. And I think the holistic approach, my sister's a naturopathic doctor. I live in a holistic environment. That's how I live my life. But I also know that I need the biofeedback.
Right.
To know, first of all, where am I at today? Second of all, where was I 10 years ago? Where was I 20 years ago?
Right.
So I think the two, in my opinion, are completely complementary.
And then this probably gives you confidence to know you're doing the right thing because you're seeing the data.
And also, I want to also say that, for me, biohacking is not just being average. It's not just being not sick.
Correct.
It's like, I want to be optimal.
Right. We should all be thriving.
Yeah, so like, where am I today? Where was I 10 years ago? Where do I want to be in 10 years? I think of data as a compass.
Yes.
And so as I get older every year on the calendar, I'm striving to make every indicator of my health better. And so that to me is biohacking, that to me is data, and that to me, honestly, is living a holistic, empowered, intuitive lifestyle as well.
That's amazing. Do you feel better now than you did 10 years ago?
Every year that goes by on the calendar, through incredible events like this and through all of the change that's happening in healthcare, I feel like with every calendar year I am getting healthier. And how do I determine that? It can be very subjective and arbitrary. I feel amazing. But I also want to go look at my DEXA scans. Okay, is my lean muscle mass that I have at 48 better than it was when I was 28? Okay, that's a number I want to continuously improve on. Is my heart rate variability getting better with each successive age? A lot of things get worse as we age.
Correct.
We produce less testosterone,
Right.
less growth hormone, like everything starts to titrate down as we age. So for me, I want to flip that completely around. I want everything to get continuously better as we age. So those are the numbers that I use to make sure that I am getting better. Now, to answer your question specifically, there's lots of numbers where I'm not at the best, but I know what the best was.
Right.
And I strive to get back there. I may not be there, but I know where my personal best was, and it's a motivator for me.
That's amazing. That's what we should all be striving for.
Yeah.
I know that once I turned 40, things kind of switched for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I have to prioritize X, Y, and Z and make those more relevant because we are aging and we have to push forward and use data, especially as we age, to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and your body changes, and what worked for you 10 years ago doesn't
Not
work
gonna
for
work
you
the
now,
same.
and you got to tweak your approach,
Correct.
and you got to remeasure, and
How many diet shifts have you had in the last 10 years?
the first one, well, let me think about that. So that's a great question. I discovered, this is going back early days of biohacking, Dave Asprey had the bulletproof diet.
Did you do it?
That was the first time I ever paid attention to changing from the standard American diet. I grew up eating just traditional standard American food. I got on the bulletproof diet, which was basically a derivative of paleo.
Correct.
And I had a phenomenal result. What I did was, this was the first biohacking experiment I ever did. I went to the doctor and I ordered all my own blood tests online. I got a DEXA scan. I did 2 months of bulletproof diet, and then I reran everything. And I just overlaid the numbers. And everything went up.
This was the birth
in the
of your
best possible
program.
way. So that was phase one. The one thing about bulletproof diet and paleo in general was there was not a lot of emphasis on understanding blood sugar implications. So there were still a lot of foods that were high in carbohydrate content. So the next major iteration for me was learning ketogenic therapy. So that was basically phase two, which is how do I go now to low carb? How do I get my body to endogenously create ketones? And that took things to the next level.
Did you feel amazing once you got there?
It was annoying at first because I couldn't get into ketosis, right? I had the meter, I couldn't get there. And then one day I went for a run, came back and I hit like 1 millimolar on the ketone meter. That was the first time in my life where my brain and my body were running on ketones, and I had complete mastery of my ability to self-regulate my food choices. Something about the way ketosis affects the brain, it just supercharges you, and it's almost like a natural appetite suppressant. You could have put my favorite food right in front of me at that moment, and I would just gently push it aside. It was like a drug.
Yeah.
And then I went down that rabbit hole for a few years. And now through my
So
own...
you were in ketosis for years?
You know, it took me a couple years to master the lifestyle, because you're coming off processed food and you get into ketosis and then you eat pizza again, right? And like, it takes you another week to get back in. I had to honestly break a mental addiction to processed foods.
Yes, I think
that
most
took
Americans
years.
do.
It took me like 2 years to the point where I was completely rewired. And that was just trial and error and in and out of ketosis. So yeah, that was the next big step. And now I'd say I'm low carb with occasional keto.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for someone who's new to this, David, what are 2 to 3 practical steps they can take tomorrow to combine data tracking and holistic nutrition effectively? Say they're tackling something like fatigue or a stubborn health issue.
Well, I think the 2 best things you can do, get an Oura ring, get your sleep cleaned up, put a CGM on, get your blood sugar cleaned up, work with a brilliant practitioner, and go from there.
Thank you. Those are such actionable ideas. I can't wait to share them with my clients and try them for myself. I can't wait to start a Heads Up account. Thank you so much, David Korsunsky.
Thank you for the wonderful questions.
For joining me today and breaking down how your company brings data and holistic nutrition together. It's been such an eye-opener, especially here at the Biohackers Conference in LA. Before we go, is there anything else you would like to leave this audience with?
I would just say that approach your health and tracking with curiosity and with fun and with an open mind, and always be learning and always be experimenting.
Awesome. Thanks again, David, and to everyone listening. Here's to hacking our health holistically. Take care.
All right, and if you have not yet been to Biohackers World, guess what? We're coming to Chicago in July and Miami in November. You absolutely want to be there. These events are unlike anything else, and I've never even seen a longevity and health optimization conference in Chicago. So I'm so excited to see all of you in Chicago at Biohackers World.